President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, has been indicted.
As America learned the news that Donald Trump's former national security advisor had been charged with mishandling classified information, there was perhaps a distinct lack of surprise.
Court documents made public last month revealed that Bolton was under criminal investigation.
John Bolton is the third critic of Trump to be criminally charged since September, following former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, all longtime foes of President Donald Trump.
He's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but it's the way it goes. That's the way it goes, right?
Bolton served for more than a year in Trump's first administration, and initially everything was going well.
He's highly respected by everybody in this room. And John, I want to thank you very much.
But it soon became a bumpy ride, with clashes over how to deal with Iran, North Korea and everything in between, before he was fired in 2019. And that's when things soured.
He's called you dumb, he's called you a loser.
I think this is evidence of his real character, or lack thereof.
He would say to me and many others, go on television and say I should get the Nobel Peace Prize. I just couldn't honestly say that. I don't think he's smart enough to be a dictator.
Bolton was also highly critical of Trump in a book he published in 2020 about his time in government. Among the claims that Trump second-guessed people's motives, saw conspiracies behind rocks, and remained stunningly uninformed on how to run the White House, let alone the huge federal government. Officials then claimed it disclosed top-secret classified information, although a lawsuit and investigation was dropped in 2021. Yet by August of this year, this was his home northwest of DC, being searched as part of a 3-year criminal investigation into the handling of classified documents, and now an 18-count indictment, all surrounding allegations of mishandling classified information, accusations of digital diaries and sharing with family members. And this is perhaps the key difference compared with the Comey and James cases. It's simply a much bigger deal, far more serious than alleged mortgage fraud or an alleged false statement to Congress, and brought by experienced prosecutors off the back of a thorough investigation. John Bolton maintains that this is a retribution presidency. He says these charges are not just about Trump's focus on me or my diaries, but Trump's intensive effort to intimidate his opponents to ensure he alone determines what is said about his conduct. Trump says there's not a list of people he goes after, but said others would likely follow. Watchers in Washington know that if any of the claims against Bolton are proved, it could translate into real and significant jail time. His fight for his freedom ultimately will now be decided in the courts. Well, Errol Moore-Coach is from Republicans Overseas. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of people are saying Trump clearly has a list and he's just working his way down it. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say they're correct. There's a list of criminals who have broken the law, and they're all being held to account. In this case, it's one Mr. John Bolton, somebody who myself and a lot of other people have been calling for years, by the way, as a Republican, for him to be investigated for not only the fact that he's probably guilty of war crimes, even though we don't subscribe to the International Criminal Court, his conduct inside of the government has been anything short of what he has lambasted and accused everybody else of. You'll have videos of John Bolton saying, oh, Julian Assange deserves to be killed, to be executed, that Chelsea Manning deserves to spend 176 years in prison. No mercy for leakers, no mercy for traitors. Those are his words. And now he's been caught dead to rights, red-handed in the transmission of classified data, 18 different accounts of this. So I would say there certainly is a list. It's a list of criminals that we intend to prosecute.
Indicted, not found guilty.
Correct, yet.
Trump said after James Comey there would be a list. That seems to speak to the fact that he's going after people who have simply dared to question him and dared to criticize him.
We see it differently. We see that he is obviously it's a elected representative. So Donald Trump is representing the people who've elected him. So when you maliciously impugn somebody or criminally try to investigate somebody like they have done to President Trump in many different ways, we don't have to go through them. I'm sure the audience is familiar with the last decade. Then these actions are not unwarranted. It's not as though we're trying to take punitive action on people who did small things or, did petty things. But in this case, these are political operatives, people who knew better, should have known better, and who deliberately put pen to paper on lies that abrogated potentially the results of the election. Because in the FBI, CIA intelligence world, you are playing with hearts and minds of people. And in doing that in an underhanded way has brought a lot of people to the surface who are now very visibly guilty of what is being accused of. At least allegedly, they look very guilty of what is they're being accused of.
But this is politicised because when the FBI raided his house as part of the investigation, and went through John Bolton's belongings, they publicised it. It was politicised because they publicised what they were doing far beyond the norm of what would normally be done.
It's interesting. I mean, when we think about the raid on Mar-a-Lago, certainly that was publicized to all end. A good friend of ours, Roger Stone, when his house was raided by the FBI, CNN was right there with the camera crews. So it was very interesting that John Bolton was treated with kid gloves. Where were the cameras? Where was the perp walk that seemed to happen to Roger Stone and others? So I think
we've seen it on. We saw those pictures. Everyone has seen those pictures. It was publicized, and many people feel it was politicized.
Well, it certainly was politicized from the beginning. From the beginning, I admitted there's a list of people who are certainly going to be prosecuted, obviously, not maybe a physical list, and their behavior was political behavior. Now, illegal behavior while doing political behavior doesn't protect you. You can't say, "Oh, I was a political operative, so my crimes were in the defense of democracy or in the defense of what I believe democracy is." So yes, there's a political angle, but John Bolton, for the record, he was a Republican his whole life. He was a neocon. He was a Bush-Cheney Republican. So it's not some left-wing guy we're going after. We're going after somebody who the left has for a long time said is a bad person. We agree with them. Now we have the evidence. And yes, it might be on display for the public because John Bolton is the kind of person to draw that type of attention.
Is it not hypocritical that Trump's own team faced scandal by mistakenly adding people to a Signal chat group regarding attack plans in Yemen? It's not as if this administration has a totally clean record, is it?
Certainly, that's was probably the biggest mistake we made in the entirety of this new presidency, and we've condemned that, and we said it was a mistake. But as you said, it was a mistake. What John Bolton has done, laid out in the indictments, was malicious. Adding a journalist to this group chat was one of the more boneheaded things ever done, and it was something that thankfully didn't fall into the hands of our enemies, and they got lucky. And myself and every Republican strategist came out and condemned them fully for it. And that's a little bit different, though, making a mistake versus the willful behavior that it looks like John Bolton conducted in terms of espionage.
It's interesting because there's been no trial. He hasn't been found guilty, and yet you've already decided he's guilty. That suggests that there's a hit list.
Oh, I've been a long-term follower of John Bolton's career, and I've seen what he's done. John Bolton, regardless of what he's done in this circumstances, he's somebody who is very pro-war. And a lot of us who had friends and family go off and fight in Iraq and Afghanistan for what had ended up being a giant lie about weapons of mass destruction, hold John Bolton and his cronies personally responsible. So when we say he's guilty, we think he's very guilty for a lot of things. In this case, I've seen the emails he's sent. I've seen the evidence that's been released, that he looks like he's guilty of the crimes charged. You are not allowed to act with impunity above the law because you're John Bolton and you think you have the cover of sort of the deep state behind you.
I suppose innocent till proven guilty, no?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think that he's tried Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning and many other people who were free speech people who are, somebody who journalists should love and respect. He asked for Julian Assange to be executed. You can go look at the videos. He wanted him to be killed. He wanted Chelsea Manning to do 176 years in prison. He tried to have Donald Trump tried in the court of public opinion. So if I'm going to come on television and talk about John Bolton, I'm going to give him the same courtesy he's given everybody else in the world.
There will be some people who think that Donald Trump is simply trying to remove his enemies. Anyone that speaks out about him, whether that be John Bolton, whether that be a comedian like Jimmy Kimmel, or indeed the free press. Earlier this week, a government that's trying to silence a free press. What do you say to that?
Well, those three things are a little bit different. Jimmy Kimmel, for example, has awful ratings, and he is also at the behest of the network, Sinclair Media.
That's not a reason to take a comedian off air and for a president to get involved in it.
It's certainly not maybe not a reason for the president to take somebody off air, but that's alleging that the president did that through a tweet. Sinclair Media, I think, saw the writing on the wall. They saw Jimmy Kimmel's numbers. They saw where he was going. Then they saw the nasty, awful things he said about my friend Charlie Kirk. And the idea that you can go and say those things and not have to take a 2-day timeout. Oh, boohoo for Jimmy Kimmel. Now, in regards to the Pentagon is a military facility. And I'm totally open as somebody in media and as somebody who supports journalism to have journalism in all places. But inside of a military facility, you have to play by the Pentagon's rules. So I think these are all, variable events, but they're the idea to put them all together that we're somehow trying to take down our enemies. I mean, they're the ones who impeached, indicted, and shot at our people. All we've done is look at the facts and brought it to grand juries.
Errol Moorcoach from Republicans Overseas, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.